Hello, and welcome to the podcast, The Guru. My name is Howard Falco, and I'm an author on self-empowerment and a mindfulness and mental strength coach to college and professional athletes and those who are looking for next-level performance and results. The Guru is a podcast offering you the deepest and most powerful wisdom on life and how this wisdom works for you from the inside out. That is, it offers how your mindset has a direct impact on your results. Becoming aware of this process is everything. This podcast is no coincidence. It's been presented to you by you and for you because the truth is, the real guru of your life is always you. Let's see what you brought to yourself today. Hi, and welcome to today's podcast episode of The Guru. Today, I'm answering your questions about life, mindset, creation, performance, and results. A few weeks ago, I asked those who follow my work to present some of the biggest questions they have that they might want some insight on or some answers to. So today, I'm going to offer some answers to some of these really interesting questions. Also today, I am thrilled to have one of my good friends, Kay Dixon, here to help me with this conversation. Now, Kay and I have been friends for a long time, over 8 years, and we've done some work together, and we've had some great conversations over those years about life, work, kids, and the cosmos. She has a great inquisitive mind, and I'm thrilled that she's here with me today. So Kay, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for being here to do this with me today.
Howard, it's an honor. I'm so excited to be here and a part of this movement that you've created for
That's
all of
awesome.
your followers and future followers. And wow, these questions are powerful. I'm excited. I'm personally, seriously so excited to know the answers myself to these questions that most all of us have or have had at some point in time.
Yeah, no, I got some really good questions, and some of them are deep and some of them are about regular things about life, and we're going to cover all of that. So, yeah, I'm excited to get into it. And, you know, what I'm going to offer is some awareness and some reflection and some contemplation on them. What I really want the audience to do, or the listener, is just you to contemplate it yourself and to see if it rings true for you. That's the idea. I think that anytime we get information in the world, we should always benchmark it against our own heart and our own mind. But I'm honored to offer what I've learned and what has worked for me in the world with individuals that have gone through tragedy or athletes at the highest level that have gotten to the next level of results, like what actually was the turning point in their mind that got them there, or just people on a path who want to understand more. So I'm psyched to get into this. So, all right. Let's start with one of the first questions that I got.
Okay, well, I went through all of these questions and I felt led to start with this one because I feel like go big or go home. Howard, this first question is pretty big, and I feel like in our heart we all have this question at some point. Why was creation created?
So we're going to start small. We're going to start really big. So basically, I'm going to answer this question, and then the podcast is going to be over, and then the podcast is going to be done, and that's it. Everything will be done. So, okay. Why was creation created, or what is the purpose of creation? So let me take the first question that was actually asked. Why was creation created? I think the first way to start to answer that question is to point out that there's an assumption in the question. Created indicates a starting point, that there was a beginning. And it's been my experience, and this is where it goes a little bit beyond mine, because mine likes boundaries, beginnings, and ends, that there has been no beginning to creation, therefore there is no end to creation. So let's start from that point. So that sort of answers the question, why was creation created? It wasn't. Creation is, always was, and always will be. So that's the first point. The second way was the way that I sort of retermed the question, which is, what is the purpose of creation? I think that's something that I can offer a more practical answer on. So because the nature of life is infinite. Creation is about the endless expression of life in whatever shape or form that is. So everything that you see through your eyes, from nature to plants to people to the cosmos, is an expression of infinity or divinity. They are one and the same. Infinity is divinity. Divinity is infinity. How's that for starting out the podcast? So,
wow.
Right.
So great. So broaden that a little bit.
Okay.
So that we all can really understand, really, if you make the connection, Howard, between purpose, what is the purpose of creation, then we have purpose here.
Correct.
To create.
That's exactly right. Not obligation, but we have the opportunity to create, because there is no pressure except that life is. So life's going to go on. If you decide to do nothing, then life's still going to go on. I think it was Goethe, the philosopher Goethe, that said, life puts its curse on all inaction, because life continues to go even if you don't. And so you're going to get kind of pulled along with life if you don't move and create with it, or you're going to feel like life's getting ahead of you, or you're disconnected from it, or etc. So we have our purpose being here is that we are creative beings. Therefore, and what makes human beings so unique and distinct is that we have a consciousness, an awareness about how we want to define who we are. And that is our spark, you would say, of the divine, or spark of life, that allows us to create in our own way that piece of the collective infinity, if there's such a thing. I don't even know if those two words go together, but we are one expression out of this infinite expression of creativity and life. And then we have the free will to go out and express who we want to be in relationship to all the other life around us. So, in spiritual circles or in religious circles, they say you're here to glorify God, right? That's what a lot of different religions say. So what, to me, another way of saying that is we're here to honor life by continually expressing our infinite creativity and handling any challenge that comes our way, deciding who we want to be, inspiring other people, whatever it is. And that's for the person that wants to achieve greatness in sports or in business or have a wonderful, enriching relationship, or just someone that wants to create peace in their own mind. That's their choice, and that's their will to decide that that's their way of expressing their infinity or their divinity. Does that make a little more sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're really leaving that up to us, because the next question is, what do you see as the sole purpose or purposes of every human being that comes to this planet? So I feel like that might intertwine. Are you leaving it up to us to decide what that sole purpose is, or do we have a specific purpose here? So
I just want to clarify, comes to this planet, let's just say who's born into life. Mm-hmm. Let's just say it that way. Yeah. So for every person that's born into life, the journey each individual takes is about finding what fills them and allows them to experience a sense of peace in their heart and mind as they go out into the world. So that could be laughing with friends. That could be their job and just taking pride in whatever they do. I think I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but Martin Luther King said, if you're going to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper in the world. And that's sort of taking pride in that. If we're a mother or a father or a friend, our purpose is really to do and express what fills our heart and fills our mind as we journey and evolve through the process of life. And that's, again, everybody's free will, and everybody is on a different journey and experience of, quote, time to when they hit their stride on that. I think when we're growing up, of course, in the teen years, we're just forming our identity of ourselves and who we are in the world. That's why those teen years are so critical to get some information like this to help you see that the possibilities are endless, that you're worthy, those type of things. But then when that's formed, that identity gets formed in the teen years, then our ego seeks to live it out. Now, here's the catch on this. If it's a negative identity, the path that's set before you by your ego is going to be one that's going to fulfill and validate a negative sense of self. And that's going to seep through in all your thoughts, actions, and reactions in life. And then ultimately the validation through the experience. So that's why it's so critical to get a great identity of who you are, an unlimited identity, an aware identity, not purely Pollyanna-ish with rose-colored glasses where you don't see responsibility and issues, that you have to take on in the world and the systems of life around you. But that's why that's so important. And then we kind of go through our 20s. Maybe we start our first job. We come out of high school, and if we go to college, we graduate college. We get a job, and then it's about, okay, I want to find someone, a partner, maybe to live my life with, or get married, have kids, etc. And we're still sort of finding ourselves on this journey. I think a person is very fortunate who finds themselves at a very young age, and then they allow themselves to live out the rest of their life with that distinct understanding. But it can happen at any moment. For me, it happened at 35 years old is when it really gelled together. But for somebody else, it could happen at 60, or it can happen at 80, or it can happen at 20. The point is not when it happens. The point is that it does happen. And I can tell you who's listening to these words right now, if this is coming into your life, and not because it's my material, it could be anybody teaching this or saying this, but this is a really good sign that you're absorbing some great information to help you find that love, compassion, and that purpose that you're looking to experience in your lifetime. So to sum it up, Kay, I guess I would say that everybody is born here to discover the true nature of who they are and what's possible for them that fills up their hearts and minds and allows them to experience joy and truly, quote, I guess, glorify life or glorify God or glorify the universe, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, that's so good. And so on a daily basis then, what is a general spiritual program or general outline that we can all be practicing daily to help uncover this or discover it more or just be our truest self? And that was one of the questions here.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the fact that person already asked the question, they're already in the process of doing it, because to me, the most powerful path for self-empowerment, for mental strength, for joy and happiness and creative control is self-awareness. The power of self-reflecting and understanding yourself truly from the core of who you've been. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about who we've been, a lot of people don't like to look at that because it brings in some idea of guilt, shame, and regret. And those are, in my opinion, those should be labeled as on those bottles as poisons to the mind, because that's what they are. I'm not saying that if you do bad things in the world, you shouldn't reflect on them and say, that's not something I don't want to do anymore. But if you carry a sense of guilt, shame, or regret with you, it's going to poison your present moment and your creative ability now. So self-awareness is the ability to look back and see, how have I created things? Who was I a year ago, 5 years ago, a week ago, or yesterday? And is that who I want to be today? And the only way I'll know is if I can allow myself to see who I've been from compassion and from an objective mindset and go, wow, now I see why I've been acting like that for the last 5 years, because when I was little, I was told this. Or somebody did this to me. And so I have a high alert on that, and I get very sensitive and I overreact. But that hasn't served me anymore. I don't need to do that anymore. So now I want to define myself with some new I am statements about who I am now. Before, I used to get angry. That used to corrode my present moment, and I didn't get the results I wanted. Now I'm going to be curious. Now I'm going to look at it with curiosity and with the intention to serve a higher self in the next moment. And that's going to make me a more powerful creator. So that, in a nutshell, Kay, is the process of self-awareness and self-reflection and why it's so powerful. So the biggest practice that any human being can do for their life is what they're doing right now at this moment and listening to these words, whether it's me or somebody else that you enjoy getting insight and information that helps lift your soul and help you see more of your incredible, beautiful, perfect worth and allow you to move forward in a more empowered way.
One of the things that you've always taught me over the course of all the years that we've been working together is to ask bigger questions. And I've always found that to be one of the key components to the next level in life that I've gone or taken and have created, is just from asking those bigger questions. So could you, in light of this, expand on that a little bit, on asking those bigger questions?
Yeah, I think the question, if you're not happy with the way your current reality is, the obvious question is to life, to yourself, is how can I change this? And what have I done in the past, unknowingly or out of survival, subconsciously, to create this? How have I contributed to this, drawn this in, or put out an energy that was looking to receive this? And if you can ask that question courageously and with an open mind and an open heart, the information will make its way back to you. And you'll find out why you did it. But the key is to not fall into the trap of feeling bad. Now, this is a tough one for a lot of people because the world's used to manipulating people through guilt, shame, and regret. That's one of its tools, right? But the way that I'm offering to look at it is like, okay, I am not that version of myself anymore. Yesterday, that was yesterday's version. I don't want to be that version again because I don't like what came out of my mouth. I don't like what I said. I don't like what I intended. I can't change it. And if I could have done better, okay, I would have.
I would have.
Right, exactly.
It's going to come out of my mouth, so.
Okay. So if I could have done better, I would have. So again, that's not a free pass to do it again. It's just an understanding that I don't care what you thought about who you were and what you should have done, because shoulda, woulda, coulda are lies. That's what you did. So just come to acceptance with it and make a new intent and a new statement in this moment that this is who I want to be now. So from this moment forward, this is who I'm going to be. And that to me is the process of it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Really good. Yeah. Okay. This is interesting. How do you do what the mind wants, but the body fights, and then you're emotionally drained?
Okay. So let me take that question again. How do you do what the mind wants you to do? Or let's say the heart.
I would say heart.
Yeah,
yes.
let's say the heart. But what the mind and the
mind.
body sometimes fight, I would say, is a better way to say that.
Right.
So the key in that transformation to get over that hump is pure will. Now, a lot of people can tolerate a lot of pain in life because they've been comfortable with it as a child. They've been comfortable with it growing up. They don't know what joy feels like. They don't know what peace feels like. So they tolerate a lot of pain, but everybody has their breaking point. And life, in its infinite wisdom, will continue to find the least path of resistance to get you insight. Mm-hmm. So if you're not listening when you ask in the first go around, then the suffering is going to get more intense. And if you don't listen in the second one, then another piece of your life is going to be threatened in some way, a relationship or a business or, a friendship. And then finally, it's going to come to a point where you're going to go, well, I'm either going to change or I'm going to lose this person. And that is the moment where the will gets strong enough and it finally subsides to the mind or the body. And it says, okay, I'm scared. I need to change this right now but unfortunately, sometimes it takes to get to that point. The reason I'm doing all this work is to help people that it doesn't have to get to intense suffering. If you just get ahead of it by doing the work on self-awareness and self-realization, and if you can just get comfortable in change, just because you knew anger was a part of your life for so long, if you can get comfortable without it. I may have said this on a previous podcast, but when I was a kid, my grandmother, she came from the old country, from Europe, and And I'll never forget one time it was, she was at the house and she was sitting on the couch and all of a sudden she clutched her pearls, she clutched her neck. And I said, Grandma, what's wrong? And she said, everything's too good. Something bad has to happen. And I'm like, wow, that just blew me away. But because she was so used to war and all the problems that they had escaping World War II over there and having half her family get wiped out, and there's a lot of trauma in there. And so goodness or joy or peace was uncomfortable and not known. So when you sense that and it's going in a direction that you want it to go, whether it's in your relationship or in your business or whatever, embrace it, enjoy it, experience all of it to its fullest. And a lot of that comes down to feeling worthy of it, that you deserve it. So, so that's the key on how you get over the mind and the body. It starts with will, and will is generated from understanding and from a higher sense of compassion and worthiness for yourself. That can fuel the will to be bigger. When you find out, wow, this is how this works, and I've been thinking negatively, and I have a low sense of myself, and that's why I've created this, and that's why my will hasn't been strong. Well, now I know the key. So now I know how to get my will really strong.
Well, this question really brought up a really good point, because so often we are in our own head too much, and we are using our thoughts too much and our mind too much, when you've always taught me it's in the heart. What feels good in the heart is follow
truth.
that.
Yes.
That's the truth. That's love.
But it's love, but it's truth. I say the mind is right 50% of the time. 50% of the time it's in truth. 50% of the time it's trying to tell you something else to try and validate a false belief. So the only real divining rod of truth is how it feels in your heart. And to do that, you have to trust it beyond what your head is going to tell you so many times. It's called people call it counterintuitive, but it's actually just intuitive. There's no counter to it. That's what intuition is, bypassing your mind and allowing what your heart is telling you and to act out of that. No matter what all the fears that you've had previously, or the fears that other people will tell you, or society, or what you felt is the right thing to do, your heart always knows the truth. And that's a huge key in life. Hey, while you're listening, I just wanted to remind you that both of my books on self-awareness and self-empowerment are available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all independent bookstores. My first book is titled I Am, The Power of Discovering Who You Really Are. And the second one is Time in a Bottle, Mastering the Experience of Life. Both are powerful, deep dives into how to harness your greatest power for self-understanding and for overcoming any issue in your life. The books also reveal how to be a conscious creator of your life and how to achieve next level results. Along with the actual book, the book is available on Audible, in my voice, and on Kindle and iBooks. Also, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you can be updated when new episodes are released. Thanks. And now back to the podcast.
I really like this next question. I feel like this is something we don't even think or are aware of actually exists. And you talk a lot about this in your work, is your DNA and how it affects your genetics and how it affects who we are today. And I don't think that we realize that, Howard. So what is a powerful way to overcome your negative upbringing and the DNA and genetics that are attached to that?
Yeah, I think once we realize how much genetics play a role on our instincts and our subconscious actions that we look back on and go, I can't believe I said that or did that, we give ourselves a break, like we look at ourselves and say, well, that's my DNA trying to activate, the genes trying to express themselves. And I've said this before also, but how as you get older, people say to you, boy, you're getting a lot more like your father, or something comes out of my mouth and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I just sounded exactly like my dad. Like, that's so crazy. And I love my dad and I love a lot of things about my dad, but then there's some things I could leave behind and be me and take on. And it's the same thing with my wife. There's a lot of things she loves about her mother, and then there's some things that she wants to have for her own self nothing good or bad about anybody previous, but just what serves each individual in their lifetime. That to me is the essence of evolution, is you got some genes, they express themselves, but your interaction with your environment and culture for today's day versus 30 years ago or 40 years ago is different. So your way of dealing with things, your way of expressing and responding and what's tolerable, what's not tolerable, what's right versus what's wrong in the world changes. Therefore, you have to change with it in order to harmonize. So that's the natural process of evolution. But going back to the question, I think once we realize that those genetics can have a big factor on us and a big impact, the whole key is awareness. The key to change is awareness. That's the first step. So just being aware of it, you can begin to subtly guide yourself to a different response and a different action. You can give yourself that pause where something may have came out of your mouth that was exactly how your dad or your mom did it, and you didn't really, it wasn't what you want to do. You can catch it. You can go, nope, this is the way I'm going. And you train your mind enough through awareness that way, and all the connections in the brain change, and eventually there's a new habit that's formed. And so that's number one. Number two is the nurturing. See, this is part of this 3 layers to our identity: genetics, nurturing, and personal experience. But the nurturing piece, that's where you can look back at yourself and say, okay, what was I taught? I was always taught these people were bad, or I was always taught that, money is evil, or whatever the beliefs are. And those are the things that you can, again, through self-reflection and self-awareness go, okay, that belief was something in previous 6 generations held, but I have no interest in holding that in today's world. Or, my parents or my grandparents, they struggled with money and that was their rationalization for it, and way of staying away from it, or they saw somebody that did evil things with it. But you know what? Money is not good or evil. It depends on the intention and the use behind it. So I'm not going to believe that. So those are a couple examples from nurturing of how you can change it, but it has to start with being willing to dig in and self-reflect on why you feel and think the way you do, and giving yourself a break. You don't know what you don't know until you do. This may be that moment, by the way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. Okay. What is a good way or technique possibly to practice to help people? Okay. So this person wants to help people love themselves more and see that they're worthy of all the goodness that life has to offer.
So the best way to do that is to question any thought that ever comes up in your mind of why you're anything less than beautifully perfect in this moment. Now, when I say the word perfect, it does not mean optimal. It does not mean that life is that you're done and you don't have to change or learn another thing, because life is constant movement and expansion. Therefore, you have to expand and grow with it. The learning never stops. But for the moment, to embrace a sense of understanding of that perfection will allow the worthiness and allow the love to come in. And again, it's a key anchoring thing in the process of self-creation, performance, results, achieving your dreams, being optimistic and full of faith and hope and energy in the process. It's all fueled from how you look at who you are. So the process that I would say is start questioning any thought, becoming aware of it that's negative or limiting, and question it. Because the truth is always your perfection and what is possible of you.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. What is the best way that you can think of to break bad habits?
So habits have been subconscious. So before you even know you're in the habit, you're doing it. So I think setting the intention is step one. And I think once you set the intention, it triggers the awareness. Because before there was no intention, so there was no awareness, so there was just the habit over and over and over again. Now with the intention, now you've got some awareness. At least, if you say, gosh, I did it again, at least you did it again. But the cool thing about life is that in the next moment, you get an opportunity to change that. Life is a never-ending opportunity to define, demonstrate, and declare who you choose to be.
Well, and it's like you talk about, we can essentially collapse time. I think we beat ourselves up over our quote unquote bad habits or what we're not proud of. But you're here to tell us and show us that can switch in a blink of an eye. That can switch in the moment of decision. And that bad habit is just possibly there to trigger that or be the catalyst for us to have that sense of awareness. And not be so hard on ourselves.
Right. The habit shows up when it conflicts with the intention. That's when it shows up. Otherwise, there's no need to see it. But as soon as you have a new intent to accomplish something, then you can start to see the habit that isn't working for you. But it's all born by the intent to create something new. So then the next step in the process is just to be willing to open up to what that habit is, how it was created, not run from it, embrace it and go, okay, that's who I was. It's not who I am or who I'm going to be. Therefore, I'm willing to begin the process of changing it. And it might grab you when you least expect it. The ego's kind of sneaky like that. It likes the comfort of the old until the new has really, truly been established. It's always susceptible to going back. So you just got to watch out for it. Because when you least expect it, it might grab you by the neck and pull you back to an old habit. But then you catch yourself. And again, with a firm will, which comes from really the realization of who you really are. You're fearless and you're impervious and you're a master creator of your life.
Gosh, that second layer to that really just opened it up. And wow, so good. So this leads to this next question, because this next question dives a little deeper. Okay.
Deeper than we've already got.
Yeah, deeper than we've already got. I mean, we're just uncovering so much truth here. Okay. Can you speak of the larger picture of having a real revolution by going to a higher level of consciousness? Could you bring that up and expand on that and talk a little bit about it and how unity is the power? So they want to reach a higher level of consciousness and understand the bridge between unity being the power, or at least that's their interpretation of it.
Okay. So that's a big question. I'm going to try and bring it to a very practical level, because I love going deep, but I always love connecting it to where it matters in your life. So revolution is sort of the instigation of evolution, right? That's what it is. So when you're trying to really expand or evolve, the key is that understanding of unity is a big part of it. Now, people say we're all one. You just got to see that we're all connected and it's nothing but unity, et cetera. You can tell people that. But until they really either intellectually or spiritually get that notion, incidentally, and I've talked about this before, that's why you had the counterculture movement in the late 60s, because LSD allowed the mind to drop all the structures and labels, and it saw that truth. And then why people are doing all these ayahuasca things, now as kind of the modern day 60s LSD movement, is for the same reason. It brings them to this greater understanding. The only, I guess, issue I have with it is that shortcut, what I call a shortcut to building a framework of consciousness to get there, is that when you come off of it, you got to deal with the regular world. And if you haven't built the conscious understanding of it that goes along with that, let's say, organically, medically induced state, then there's going to be a lot of strife like there was in the 60s. There's going to be a lot of frustration and anger and resentment to a world that doesn't see things the way you do. So coming to that understanding of oneness, whatever route you take, I think the most powerful way is through a conscious understanding where you go right at the ego, right at your front, the front of your mind, and just say, hey, this is how we're all connected. First of all, we all come from stardust, right? We're all made up of the same molecules, atoms, and energy as everything else in the universe. So right there, we're connected. And secondly, that from a global standpoint, everybody affects the whole. There was a quote I was reading, I was talking to somebody about my second book, Time in a Bottle, and it said that the smallest pebble affects the whole ocean. Mm-hmm. There was a quote in there. I forgot who the quote was by. It might have been Blaise Pascal. The smallest pebble affects the whole ocean. He was a mathematician. But the point is, the butterfly effect, right? So we're all connected through our actions. And this goes back to what you put out comes back to you. Mm-hmm. Because you have to learn that lesson. So if you're putting out negativity, division, separation, you're going to find trouble in your life. You just are, because it's who you are. When you start to see all human beings bleed the same color, want the same things for their family, I don't care what creed, race, religion, color, it doesn't matter, all the same. Now, are there radicalized versions of Christianity, Judaism, Muslim, whatever, you name it? Yes. Right? There are. But from a people standpoint, we're all the same on a mass scale. We all want love, joy, happiness. So getting back to the question, when you see that and you're able to see through the fears in your mind or pre-programmed ideas of what that person is or will do to you, and you see human being and you see love, you create that in your life. You experience that in your life. And you do have a revolution of mind and an evolution of mind that takes you to a new level of understanding of your connectedness to all of life. And it sends your life in the most beautiful, every day is a miracle then, when you get to that level of consciousness and awareness. I like using those two words together because consciousness sometimes seems too scientific. But when you get to that level of understanding, even, maybe even a better word, so that's what I think the question is asking about, but it can't be because it's some flighty esoteric bite line. It's all about the one. You have to intellectually understand, as they say, walk in somebody else's shoes and understand we're all the same. I guess that's my best expression of that answer, is to be able to see that connectivity. And that goes to nature and it goes to animals. It's really miraculous when you start to live your life from that perspective. It's very genteel and it's just a beautiful way to live life. So, and that's obviously, I'm working very hard to make sure people can understand that, because I think it leads to a much better world. And we certainly could use it right now.
I love that it's not that complicated, that it's about the awareness that we continue to evolve and in our lives on an everyday basis. And that it seems like that's what you're saying is, as a listener, and I'm listening to you and absorbing this information and learning this information, to me, it seems like raising that level of consciousness as you connect the dots between consciousness and awareness is really more about becoming more aware in our everyday life. And that's how we can impact the world around us, is through that awareness. Is that correct?
That's partially correct. We're becoming more aware, but the question is, what are we becoming aware of? And there's so many things, exciting things that we've talked about already that we're becoming aware of. We're becoming aware of this divine, infinite universe. We're becoming aware of our infinite ability to create. We're coming aware of our infinite worth. We're coming aware of our connection to everything else. We're becoming aware of the creators that we are, meaning that if you have an intention, a desire to create something, a beautiful relationship, a passionate, loving, awesome relationship, a business that thrives, if you're in sports as an athlete and you're trying to get to the next level and really put forth that talent that you have inside, that you've demonstrated to yourself before when nobody was looking and you want it to come out, then all these factors are key in opening that door on mental strength, on peak performance, on awareness, and on conscious creation. So yes, it's about becoming aware through self-awareness, but it's about what we're becoming aware of and really understanding that.
So good. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, so how does gratitude and thankfulness play into this as the next question plays out?
Great. That's a great segue, actually. So the reason that gratitude and thankfulness are key is because you cannot be grateful and thankful and be in a disharmonious state of mind at the same time. So I think getting back to gratitude and thankfulness at least puts your mind in a peaceful state. And to me, that's the best state to start digging into self-awareness, to be open-minded. Because when you're at peace, you see more of the possibilities. When you're in disharmony, you limit what you're able to see as a possibility. So gratitude and thankfulness are great ways to harmonize the mind and get you back to peace, because this world throws so much at each one of us on a daily basis.
Yeah.
What this person has, what that person has, what perfection is, what you don't have. You know, I often tell people, look, if you want to look on social media and see all the great things, great. But, you know, turn on some world news like the BBC or something, or, you know, and look around the world and see what's going on and how many people are living in poverty and don't have running water and don't have a roof. If you want to get some real true perspective, because without perspective, you're a lost soul.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope when you're comparing yourself to only to what makes you feel bad. So gratitude and thankfulness are key to bring you back to that connection and thankfulness with life. And then that peace itself will allow more a sense of ease and actually make you a more powerful creator. If you're, you know, in sports, the way this manifests is when guys or girls or women or men get cocky.
Yeah.
They've lost that gratitude. They've lost that thankfulness. They've lost that respect for their fellow competitors. And as soon as cockiness hits, it's over. The magic comes out of the wand, so to speak, you know, whether it's the putter or the bat or something. And it used to work. Cockiness used to work in sports like 20, 30 years ago. It does not work today. And I just saw it over the last year on a big scale in the world of golf with one of the big players. Took on a very, very cocky attitude, and it has just come back to bite him. So anyway, but it happens in all sports and in life.
Yeah. That's one of those daily practices that we were talking about to make sure that we're adding in on a daily basis, is the gratitude. Is that a part of that you would agree is part of that daily principle that should be a part of our routine?
Yes. Do I believe it should be a part of our routine? Yes. I believe that the first thing you should say when you get out of bed in the morning is thank you. And the last thing you should say before you go to sleep. I think that would be the perfect way to do it. Yeah. I wanted to let you know that I offer private sessions for those who are truly serious about positively changing their life and breaking through to experience new positive results. Sessions are on FaceTime, Zoom, or Skype and are designed to empower you with a new awareness and strength of mind. This is open to athletes at all levels, business people, and individuals looking to get through and overcome everyday issues. For more, go to howardfalco.com or totalmindsports.com to connect by email, or call 480-585-9750. Answers and positive change for your life are closer than you think. Now, back to the podcast.
So how does a person develop patience? And how do you develop virtues? So these are this was like a two-part question. Great question.
These are all great questions. I mean, I had no idea this was going to be so power-packed. I mean, this is, we might have to stop this at an hour just to let everybody absorb it all.
Absolutely. We need like a break. We need an absorption break and then come back for part two.
Wow, I do. That's for sure. All right. So I think virtues are a natural outgrowth of who we want to be. Our virtues come from our intention of who we want to be, and from the reflection of who we didn't like who we were. Oh, that's not very virtuous what I did. I'm going to change that, and I'm going to define myself someone now I was young, I was unaware, I was emotional, I was misguided. That's fine. That's part of your evolution and your growth. But you have the opportunity now to be virtuous. And boy, will it serve you. Whew. Your mind will try and talk you out of it too. Like, oh no, you got to do this. You got to do this. Don't be. I am telling you, if you're listening to these words, virtue is one of the most powerful things you can have. To be virtuous and to be grounded in truth and faith and honesty. It's such good energy to put out. And the world is working in amazing unseen ways to bring it all back to you. Life is working in unseen ways to bring it back to you. God is working in unseen ways to bring it back to you. So that's what I would say about virtue. It comes from the reflection of who you don't want to be, and it shapes you. The key is not to feel bad. Again, that is a trap door. That does not mean you don't take responsibility. Let's not mix that up. That does not mean you ever condone it if you don't like what you did. Those are two different things. Just if you carry that energy, it's going to poison the present moment of who you are, who you can be. So that's the key. But patience, let's talk about that. I'm laughing at my own self on patience. My mom said I always wanted everything. Howie, she said, everything has to be yesterday for you.
And then you wrote time in a bottle.
Yeah, right? Who did I write time in a bottle for? Myself. So patience comes from faith. The faith is to know that God or the universe or life is always supporting and working for your best interest. Now, we have to take apart that word best interest, because a lot of people who are listening, and much respect to anybody who's listening to these words who has gone through personal tragedy or grief. Let me explain what I mean by personal interest. It's working to help for your edification of who you are, of what you can overcome, what you can get through, and how much you can help change the world through your experience. Whether it's just one person or whether it's millions, it doesn't matter. But there's purpose in the process for you. So that's what I mean by life's always working for our best interest. But so patience comes from this idea that life's always working for me. Once I understand that more, I have more faith and I have more patience. And that patience is going to allow me to actually do a more mindful and better job with what I'm trying to create. So I just want this business to be a success. Well, maybe because of the impatience, you cut corners. Maybe because of the impatience, you weren't mindful in what your client's true needs were. Maybe because of the impatience, you did things just to put up a number rather than to build something really lasting. In sports, I want to win. Well, maybe that impatience has caused you not to be present enough to pick up what kind of pitch is being thrown at you, or to pick up the intuition of what kind of pitch is going to be thrown at you, so that you can be in a better space to get on top of the pitch, swing, and make great contact with it. Or if a golfer, if you're impatient, maybe you tried to squeeze a shot into a really tight pin where there's danger, water, sand, something that's going to make it very difficult if you're 1 yard off, instead of having the patience to hit it to the middle of the green, make a par on that hole and make a birdie somewhere else, just to take two sports examples. If you're impatient about your relationship and you rush it and you try and just expect things to happen and expect things to be good and expect your partner to do things for you, maybe you should have the patience to listen and to hear what they're really saying and how to meet them on a spiritual and connective and emotional level, so that you can experience all that joy and all that, whether it's physicality or intimacy or fun that you want to have in the relationship. So those are just 3 examples of why patience is so key. But behind the patience, there has to be, and this is what I think helps it anyways, is to have more faith in life, and that your intentions are heard and life knows what you want.
So how do we develop that faith? How do we have more faith in ourselves and faith in life? That seems like such a key component to this whole process is getting to that point where we have that.
Let's go real time.
Okay.
Have you had questions about life, Kay?
Absolutely.
Did you always want to know the big answers to things? Have you always been a seeker?
Always, since I was a little girl.
Can you see the divine perfection of this moment?
Yes.
You think the universe isn't working for you?
Oh, it is.
You think the universe doesn't know what you want?
Oh, it does.
Okay. What does that provide you with?
Faith.
Right, exactly. Now, again, I'm not saying because it's me or this material, could be anybody, but here's the point. This is about as upfront and personal as it gets. And that goes for any listener. But, this moment is just one of those creative moments somehow that worked its way into your mind where it's showing you that life has heard you and it's trying to answer some questions or provide you with some insight. So life is always there next to you, helping you along in the process of what you're looking to do. And if you're looking to do something for those people in the world that are doing something nefarious or that's manipulatory, then life will be there to eventually have to reveal that falsehood and that illusion about how life works. And so it'll have to create some destruction and chaos in order for that person to get the lesson. This is just a much easier way and on a much better path to get it. Just this way.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This person, Howard, wants to know what the key is. And you may have already answered this, but expanding on it could be really powerful to changing your life for the better. You know, when you really desire the next level in life and a better quality of life, why do people get stuck in patterns? They want to know. And why does embracing worthiness seem so hard? And then they said, what's the deal with the world today? So there's a lot there. But they just really want to hear your heart and mind on that and what you have to say on how to really change your life for the better.
Again, I'm just going to go back to what you're doing right now at this moment, which is taking an insight and self-reflection and awareness on how to be more mindful about defining who you are and how to do it in a stronger way for your results, for what you're looking for. So this is that moment. You are doing it already. And then to keep nurturing the self, keep nurturing who you are, keep catching negative thoughts. Keep, stop the lies that tell you what you can't do and who you aren't and what isn't possible. Because those are all against creation. They're against the truth of infinity, like we started the conversation out. Mm-hmm. And just to finalize, maybe we can just sort of wrap it on this question, but, what's the deal with the world today? The deal with the world today is the same that it's been since the world's ever been around. And that is that things are happening that allows for our learning individually or collectively. So from an individual perspective, whatever's happening in your life is to get you to reflect and say, who do I really want to be as an individual in relation to what's happening? And how can I influence that change? As a nation, it's the same thing. Like what's going on right now? Who do I want to be as a human being? Or who do we want to be as a country? And what do we want to put forth to demonstrate that as a country? And that can have its challenges to find sort of a collective agreement on that. But given the turmoil, that's the question at hand right now. And then globally as well, who do we want to be as a world? And what I've learned in all my work and all my travels is that there are far more loving, compassionate, beautiful, amazing people in this world than you can ever imagine, who just want to live simple, peaceful lives, practice their creed, practice their religion, practice their spirituality, or their job, or enjoy their family. And a lot of times we get swept up in the extremes on both ends of the spectrum of what people want. And unfortunately, can get sucked into that and get pulled down. There's nothing more important than your state of mind. And there's nothing more important than the peace and the love that you give out on a daily basis to everyone you meet. So protect that state of mind, regardless of the situation the world is. What you can always do is be who you are in a way that you want to contribute. And that'll keep you out of the traps of the world and hopefully send those ripples out like the pebble in the ocean to help change the world.
Absolutely perfect.
Kay Dixon, thank you so much for doing this with me today and helping me out on the podcast, asking these questions. And to all the listeners who sent in the questions, thank you very much for your questions. Amazing questions and inquiries. And hopefully this offers some great contemplation, and you can listen to it and embrace what works best for your life. So Kay, again, thanks for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I cannot wait for more.
Awesome. Thanks for listening, everybody. And I'll be back with you very soon. You can hit the subscribe button to be automatically notified of new episodes when they come out. And please share the podcast with others you think would enjoy it. More information about my books on personal empowerment or inquiries about private sessions or group coaching can be found at my websites, howardfalco.com or totalmindsports.com. You're also welcome to connect with me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Thanks again for listening, and remember that the one true guru of your life is always you. Until we see what you bring to yourself next time, be well.